And whatever I always did, my mom always told me, if I'm going to sign you up for basketball, if I'm going to sign you up for football, baseball, whatever it is, be the best at it. Don't make me look bad. And so that just always resonated within me. I want to be better than these kids one day. And so I became friends with them. Long story short, father was a coach of one of the players. I tried out for the team. I was shit. I wasn't good. I'm not gonna lie. I was just super competitive. It was the winter transfer window in January, which I'm coming off of the MLS off season.
Yep.
I'm partying my ass like we used to do back in Miami, Jalil, in the off season. I ain't thinking about going to Europe in January. Clint Dempsey had already went over it 6 months prior to me going over to Fulham, and then I got back from camp, and me and Clint are real cool. We're real tight. And I see like 4 or 5 missed calls from Clint, his UK cell at the time, or his BBM pin, BBM back in the
day. That's the throwback. You start jumping.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
They're closing the curtain on our Legend Series in 2025. We started with a bang with Dwayne De Rosario, and then the amazing Josie Altidore, and then last week, the iconic Eddie Pope with an incredible story that can only be heard on a show like New Ground. And yet another true legend of American soccer joins us today. The man who launched the modern era of professional soccer before Christian Pulisic, before Gio Reyna, before Weston McKennie, even before Freddie Adu, there was Eddie Johnson. The striker became one of the youngest professionals in U.S. soccer history all the way back in 2001, became an MLS star, first with Dallas and then Kansas City, a prolific scorer for the U.S. men's national team, a long stint in Europe before coming back and playing again in MLS with Seattle and DC United. Joining us this week, Jalil, none other than Eddie Johnson. Eddie, welcome to the show. We hope you're doing well. How you living this week?
First of all, I gotta say what's up to 2 real ones, man, that I've had an opportunity to build a great relationship over my career as a player, and in this new chapter of my life. 2 great guys doing a great thing. I'm great, and I'm looking forward to catching up, man, and just chatting with you all to see what y'all are up to lately, and just kind of fill you in what I've been doing.
So many great memories when we crossed paths when I was on staff with Jurgen Klinsmann, the U.S. men's national team. And you were such a big part of the run up to 2014 and scoring the game winner against Mexico to cinch qualifying. But it's interesting because, I think sometimes history, if we don't read it, we forget about it. And in preparation, I realized that, man, you were the youngest player at 19 years of age to score a hat trick in MLS, and still you're third now. Kenta Mena and also Ricardo Pepi, the only 2 players younger than you. So when you think about that young player balling in the league, a teenager, and you think about the grown man and the gravitas now, what are some of the things that you think about when you reflect on sort of how you started and where you are now?
Just seeing where the league was then and seeing where the league is now, just to even be in that statistic of being one of the young kids to first score a hat trick in MLS history is pretty, it's a humbling feeling, but it's a lot of the hard work that I put in as far as, mastering my craft to even be considered being in the talking with those caliber of players, but a lot of the things that I accomplished and learned during my career has put me in the position to what I'm doing right now, and that's trying to help the game continue to grow and develop in America. So it's using all of my knowledge and experiences as a player, and then now just giving it back to the younger generation and just trying to give the game back, really honestly, what the game gave me.
Yeah, and that's, one of the best things about the opportunity of retirement. I think a lot of us, when we've dedicated our lives to even aspiring to be a pro, and then we reach certain pinnacles of what it is to be a professional, sometimes it can be scary in terms of what's next. But for you, you've been able to figure that out seamlessly. I want to talk about from the beginning. How did you start? How did you get into footy? How did it become not just a sport that you played, but a lifestyle that you wanted to live, and a passion that really grew and burned within you?
Growing up in the inner city in Bunnell, Florida, I think every kid's dream is to become, a professional athlete in something, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's American baseball. And not like this generation, but my generation. When we were younger, we were always outside competing, whether it was, who can run the fastest, who can uh, throw the football the longest. Who can. Everything was just so competitive growing up, and my environment developed this competitive nature within me. And whatever I always did, my mom always told me, if I'm gonna sign you up for basketball, if I'm gonna sign you up for football, baseball, whatever it is, be the best at it. Don't make me look bad. And so that just always resonated within me. That my mom's giving me the opportunity. Back in the day, single mom, growing up on welfare, every cent, every goddamn dollar mattered, right? So if she was gonna sacrifice something, it was always don't make me look stupid,
Yep.
So I feel like, and I don't want to get off topic a little bit. Like one of the things parents ask me right now, working with younger kids, is how do you develop that dog mentality within a kid? I say you're born with that, and a lot of what I mean by born with that is like how you're raised. What your household consists of. What your parents instilled in you, and so being raised by a single mom, seeing her work two jobs, seeing her struggle, it was always, man, I gotta find a way. And so what way to find a way was always, through sports, figure out which sport I really, really loved. And whatever sport I really, really loved, try to be the best at it, whether it was in my team, whether it was, competing with friends, whether it was being in a league. And then how I came across soccer was my mom would put me in the summer camp program. My siblings and I'm one of three, and I met these three white kids, and these three white kids were real cool, man. And I became friends with them in summer camp, and then I learned to find out that they were soccer players, and then not knowing nothing about soccer at 10 years old, uh, they were really goddamn good at it, and I wasn't. And it goes back to that competitive nature, being where I'm from. I'm like, there's no way in the hell these little white, blonde hair, blue eyes kids are that much better than me in this sport. I'm gonna figure out, what this sport's all about, what it looks like to being the best at this sport. And the only way to learn is being around people that are better than you. So, that street smarts of being a
Darn.
young person, studying people and learning from people. Like I said, I didn't have a coach growing up. I didn't have a trainer, and so I just studied those kids, was motivated by those kids, was a bit jealous. I'm not gonna lie, because they were better than me at soccer, but that was it. But I was like, you know what? I want to be better than these kids one day. And so I became friends with them. Long story short, father was a coach of one of the players. I tried out for the team. I was shit. I wasn't good. I'm not gonna lie. I was just super competitive. And you all know in soccer in this country, you all know and I know soccer in this country. If you're fast, you're either a striker or you're a defender.
Yep.
I had no touch. I had no technical ability. I did not know how to dribble a goddamn ball. But those kids were like, man, every time we played against him, he was so aggressive. Dude told me I'd be a defender. So he was my friend. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a goddamn defender. So when I was a defender, I said, I'm going to be the best defender. And so just being around those kids becoming my friends. Dad took a chance on me and put me on the team. We started going around locally and traveling around Florida and then around the country, going to tournaments. And man, I was like, damn, I really am good at this, And I started getting attention from like ODP scouts when I was around like 12, 13 years old. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna stick to this because I see a lot of things, happening in a positive way in my life right now. It's keeping me on a good track. It's keeping me away from my childhood friends in the inner city. So maybe, I go after this, and then things just start happening so quickly, man. So, you know, by the time I was 15, 16 years old, and Major League Soccer came in the picture, and then it was like, man, hey, we think this kid is good enough to go to pro at 17 years old. So I was like, you know what? I
Wow.
think this was my calling. I'm a go for it. It's a way of helping my mother out, and helping my siblings out too as well. So I'm gonna go for it.
When I was working with you and around you covering the league, I always used to say to people, I think Eddie's the first real inner city star we've ever had. And it was more respect to sort of the suburban experience that so many of your peers and colleagues in the league, and I've talked to them about this as well. But did you feel that way, that you were really a pioneer in terms of where you came from, and how much of that hunger and that desire to just be better and to get out of the hood and the projects let you inside 10 years go from just starting to play the game, not being very good, your words, to scoring a hat trick in Major League Soccer less than a decade later?
When I look at, when I first came in the league and some of the guys that inspired me when I was younger, DeMarcus Beasley, Edson Buttle, whenever we went to like youth national team camps and stuff, those guys were always like, inspirations of mine, Gucci Anyewu, just to see other guys of color, that were my color, that I thought came from, where I came from as far as their upbringing. I always was inspired by the success they were having. So that is what motivated me to want to do well or wanted to do better than them. So you talked about upbringing, and I talked about in the inner city. There's no age in terms of, whether you're playing 21 on a basketball court, whether you're playing two-hand touch, flag football, whatever it is. If an OG, if you're at the YMCA or at the Carver Gym is what we called it in the inner city in Bunnell in my hood, if an OG say, "Hey, I want you on the team," OG didn't look at Eddie Johnson as being a younger kid. He looked at me as he's good enough. I don't care how old he is. I don't care what the size he is. I want you. We need you. We want you to play. So that mentality of being around older players, playing against older players, and them roughing me up and them being hard on me and them pushing me and them, demanding a lot out of me and holding me to a certain standard. Uh, when I turned pro at 17, and then I scored my first hat trick, being an inner city kid, whose story's different and not like the suburban kid because soccer was a suburban sport. My environment prepared me for that moment. It prepared me to not look at the sport as I'm young. You need to be more patient with this kid. But it was more as, and it's a saying that we say too, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And so my
Facts.
upbringing had a lot to do with a lot of my early success and not being intimidated and playing with older players or even the expectations of what the older players held me at because that started on my upbringing. So uh, coaches yelling at me, older players demanding more out of me, something not going the way I wanted to go. I knew keeping my head down and keep working, and the fact that I was given this opportunity and they took a risk, and making me a part of their organization. I knew in due time if I keep putting in the work, I was always confident in my ability. That I would always find success wherever I went, whatever it is that I was doing. But as far as like government housing, food stamps is what it was called back in the day, having big ass rats in your house, mom working two jobs, mom selling crack cocaine, stepfather was a crackhead, like I can go on and on. Police is knocking on the door, doing home evasions. Like I really lived that. All I ever wanted to do is, and why I was so I want to say misperceived or not perceived the right way. All I wanted to do is be heard. And coming from an environment where I come from, where you're told you're not going to be anything, you're going to be a product of your environment. A lot of who I was and my personality and why I moved with the chip on my shoulder. It was more of saying, you know what, there are kids that come from the inner city that do have the ability, that are raised in the right upbringing. Just because I'm from the hood doesn't mean I wasn't taught to be well mannered. Doesn't mean I wasn't taught
Facts.
that know right from wrong. Wasn't taught that our higher power is the Lord, and that we wouldn't have any. No, like all of those things that all of these kids that have everything and come from everything, we're taught those same damn things too. Our environments are just different, and so a lot of my success and my mentality and my attitude was just wanting to be heard. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like, the way I carried myself and my, my focus and my mentality, The only way I was gonna be able to hurt is to do the not norm, and that was one of my biggest motivations as far as, saying that, hey, there are, good African American kids that come from, inner cities, communities that do have the talent. If you take a chance on them, this is what they can do.
And when you talk about not doing the norm, that that exemplifies a decent amount of your career. Talk to us about when you made the transition across the pond to Europe and really started your career in that regard. Because in the time in which you were playing in the MLS and then going over to Fulham, that was unprecedented territory for American players, especially attackers. Maybe not so much goalkeepers, but for a forward to go over and do that and then also be able to hold their own in Europe is completely uncharted territories at that time. So talk to us about what that experience was like.
It was a January camp, 2008. All the MLS-based players were, in camp around that year. Jalil, we used to all go to those camps in our career, the MLS-based players. Clint Dempsey had already went over it 6 months prior to me going over to Fulham, and then I got back from camp, and me and Clint are real cool. We were real tight. And I see like 4 or 5 missed calls from Clint, his UK cell at the time, or his BBM pin, BBM back in the day.
That's the throwback. You start going to
That
BBM.
BBM.
You showed
Rick
your
Breaker.
That boy
age.
had like BBM, like like.
I was baller status.
And so that's the homie. So it was like, man, Clint's calling, bro. I gotta dial in and see what's going on. True story, Clint. I received the information before my agent at the time had reached out to me, because Clint was actually playing over there. So the coach, basically Roy Hodgson at the time, was basically asking Clint about me. The 2007 Copa America Argentina game is where Roy Hodgson, I think Fulham scout, saw me play in that game. And then he started asking Clint, just what kind of, person he is, what is he like off the field, da, 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 da. And so, Clint's gonna say a lot of great things about me. And at the time, I was, probably one of, if not the hottest strikers in the country at the time, And so Clint basically called me, we talked, basically filled me in on what the environment looked like on a day in, day out, week in and week out environment. And at the time, believe it or not, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. Fulham was struggling. They're at the bottom of the table. They were fighting for to stay above relegation. And it was the winter transfer window in January, which I'm coming off of the MLS off season.
Yep.
I'm partying my ass like we used to do back in Miami, Jalil, in the off season. I ain't thinking about going to Europe in January. You know what I'm saying? I'm having fun, man. A long ass MLS season. Now I've got to look forward to a painful January camp full of fitness, and I wasn't even like thinking about like going to Europe at the time. I was faithful to Kansas City. I was loyal to Kansas City. Kurt Anoffel, my coach at the time, who is a great coach of mine in my career, still friend till this day. We had a fantastic relationship, and things were going well in Kansas City, and so at the time when things were going well in Kansas City, I had an opportunity to do something for me. I felt like would help better further my development as a player in my career at the age that I was at, because I had already had previous offers in Europe to go to Benfica, turn that down. I could have went to Derby County, turn that down. So when Fulham came, I was like, this is my third chance. I might not get another chance, and just saying I might not get another chance doesn't mean I wasn't gonna underperform the next years. But injuries happen, things happen, and so I said, boom, I'm gonna do it. 2 days into the January camp, man, I'm not even fit, man. I won't even lie. I ain't lying to you right now. I'm not fit. I'm out of shape. All I saw was opportunity to play, financial stability, because as players, we need that. And a chance to, further my development in a league that we all know when they come knocking on the door, that opportunity don't come a lot. And I'll never forget Juan Pablo Angel told me this when I was in the MLS. Wasn't even a teammate of mine. He literally was talking to me after a game. He's like, from my own personal experience, he's like, if you have an opportunity to go to England, go in the summer transfer window. I said, why? He said, because you get to have a full preseason with them. You get to have a full preseason with them. So that way you get to know your teammates. You need to get to build chemistry and camaraderie. You get to earn a starting spot, right? You know, you don't want to go during the winter transfer window, because when you go through the winter transfer window, you're coming off the off season of the MLS where they're halfway through their season, so fucking flying, and you got to play catch up. You know, it's one of the most difficult things you can do, right? At that time, I wasn't trying to hear that. But my God, was he not telling the truth? Everything he said
Ain't the truth.
everything he said was the goddamn truth, bro. I felt like Rocky in every Rocky series and Rocky Balboa when I went to England. I was just getting hit with freaking uppercut, left and right, boom, 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 boom. And there was times where I was like, man, damn, Bunnell didn't prepare me for this, man. It prepared me for a lot of stuff, but it didn't prepare me for this. I can't fight back physically. You know what I'm saying? Bunnell taught me how to throw hands, but man, it didn't taught me how to fight this way, you know. And it was just like, even at a smaller club like Fulham, and people don't know this too, and I got to tell the story. When I went over there, let me tell you how cutthroat this is. Roy Hodgson was pressing Clint Dempsey to convince me to come, right?
Yep.
Then he went and big fucking Clint Dempsey when I got over there to me. True story, and Clint will tell you this. He benched Clint, and then I was playing over Clint. So I'm like,
Man, this ain't right.
now he gonna have homie feeling a certain way towards me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and man, it was a difficult 6 months for me, man. Like, you know, it was a lot of pressure. We weren't a team, I'll tell you that right now. And McBride can tell you, Casey Keller, Los can tell you, it was basically everybody was trying to survive. And players that already had Premiership experience were already looking at, you know what? We had no way to survive. I'm gonna start trying to look for opportunities from other Premiership teams where I can get my agent on the ball and figure out, you know, when and if Fulham does get relegated, I can still stay in the Premiership, because you know, when you get relegated, your salaries decrease when you get relegated in Europe. You know, so man, talking about getting thrown in the fire, you know, but at the end of the day, I made that choice. So everything that I endured, everything that I had to deal with, I couldn't blame nobody for it, because felt like, you know, it was my time to go, and whatever cards God was gonna, deal me, I was gonna have to take it for what it was worth. And I couldn't say I didn't get my chance. I did get my chance, you know, and in the games that I did get my chance, it wasn't that I wasn't playing, wasn't performing, I just wasn't scoring, you know. And 3 games there, 4 games there, don't get the right results, you're not scoring, replace.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I don't care how much they bought you for. Replace. Not like the MLS. You could be the highest paid player. You gonna play. You gonna, they gotta play you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or you're gonna play, and there's not a lot of pressure. Your fans ain't gonna boo you coming to the right. But there, replace. You know, and so to Jalil. Bro,
Oh man,
y'all laughing, I'm crying.
We're laughing with you though. We're laughing with you.
Bro,
Straight
I'm
up.
laughing too, but those days were painful, bro. They were painful. Yeah, they were
Eddie,
painful.
you know, how much do you take all those experiences? And I've been telling you this, you know, I got all the receipts on the text threads and the DMs. You know, I believe you're the best player development coach in this country. And I'm curious as to why you fell into that space and how much of that experience you just described allows you to be a point of differentiation in terms of really getting players the technical and mindset, the technical skills and the mindset they need to be successful.
again, Alan, to your question, I just want to be heard, right? A lot of who I was, and I'll tell people that a lot of who I was and things that I wanted to do, I couldn't do as a professional soccer player. Like, like even till this day, when I go and I put my teams together from my program and we go play other teams and stuff, or if I was mentoring kids and I was working with kids and we were focusing on, soccer specific situational work, and I'm teaching them in this position, you got to have these attributes and these characteristics. A coach would still go back to that kid and say, "Where'd you learn that from? Eddie Johnson. If you do that again, you won't play." Right. So what I'm saying is, like,
Mm.
I remember growing up and being a professional soccer player, and R9, the phenomenon, was my idol. Right. Back in the day, they didn't have TVR. If you didn't record that damn game in a VCR, you missed the highlight, right? Or if you didn't catch that replay, if you didn't catch that goddamn replay, you missed that goddamn replay, bro.
Speaking my
You know what I'm
language,
saying? So
VHS tapes. They
so
don't know
so
about these kids
so
these days.
so I remember every time Brazil played, I had to stay there and watch that skill, because if you missed it, you missed it if you didn't record it. And
Yep.
so the scissors, the step overs, all the freedom those Brazilians used to play with, that inspired me to play soccer. The
Hmm.
'94 World Cup. Right? And then to have coaches growing up, even when I was a professional soccer player, say, "Don't do those scissors, you're not Brazilian. Don't
Mm.
do that, you're not Argentinian." But here in America, we encourage our basketball players to be the next LeBron James and Michael Jordans and Kobe Bryants, and we say those skills that they were doing, they work. You know what? Make that a part of your game, and you'll have a chance at being one of the greatest basketball players or American football players if it's Jerry Rice or Deion Sanders. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
in soccer, we don't encourage our players to dream big and to be like the ones that were before us over the generations that have won Ballon d'Ors. Those players that have won Ballon d'Ors, what made them great? What characteristics did they have? We're not teaching our kids that. And so, to go back to what you're saying, what made me fall in the position that I'm in is when I retired, I remember uh, the GM, Dave Casper at DC United. He said, "Eddie, for whatever it's worth, I know you're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. I know for whatever it's worth, I know it's not the right time and you probably want to hear it. And I know you're doing a lot of stuff, but obviously, what they did for me and how they retired me at halftime at DC." He's like, that standing ovation you got, you know,
Mm.
hopefully that left something, special inside with the impact that you made on so many people. And you know what? He's right. He's like, "And for whatever it's worth, I think you'll be a goddamn good coach one day." And in my
Mm.
mind, I was like, I don't want to hear no goddamn be a good coach. I still want to play. Right.
Hmm.
And so I do remember, and Jalil will tell you, whenever I was on the field, I was probably one of the most competitive goddamn human beings in the world. Right? I used to talk to my teammates like I was the goddamn coach. "Hey, I'm open, man. Pass me the ball. You need to find me the ball, man." You know what I'm saying? Like, "Hey, why you
Yep,
losing the ball, man?"
that's
You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like, I was always on folks, right? Always holding folks to the same standard that I would hold myself at. You know what I'm saying? And so when he told me, "You know what, you'll be a great coach one day," I was like, "You know what? Let me look into this and kind of see, what that looks like, what a day-to-day uh basis, week-to-week basis that looks like." And so I was like depressed for like probably
Mm.
like 6, 7, 8 months. And I used to drive back and forth to Corey Gibbs in Orlando, and I just go to his house, man, and just like freaking just vent, man, and just be like, "Man, I'm lost, man. I'm stuck. I don't know what I want to do. I don't
Mm.
even know what I'm good at, man. Soccer is all I knew." You know what I'm saying? Like, I never thought this was gonna come to a day where it hit me off guard, where I gotta finally, you know what I'm saying? I got kids to take care of, you know what I'm saying? I'm still trying to, find peace and accept that I can't play no more. I was like, "So you've been through this process, man. Help me get through this." And he's like, "One of the things that helped me get through this is like, you gotta really, really figure out what it is that you like what you love to do, or even in the game, you know, you know, you can still stay within the game, but what next path you want to go down within the game, but make sure when you do it, you can still stay true to who you are when you're doing it, right?" Because
Hmm.
Corey started doing broadcasting, and it wasn't Corey's thing. Shout out to Corey. He wouldn't like you, Jalil. You know what I'm saying? You're better on TV than Corey. Even B's do a better job than Corey. But Corey is one of the best, or not best, agents out there in the world. So, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
so when Corey was telling me that, I was like, you're right, man. I can't just hop into anything. I got to really figure out what it is that I want to do, right? And still be able to be who I am and do it the way I want to do it. And no one's telling me how to do it and when to do it. And I went around, I looked at like youth soccer and kids, like Orlando City at the time when they first started their old DA program and what they were doing. And I looked over there and I was like, this is a MLS academy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't never remember not being not this good at this age, 12 years old and can't have a first touch or
Right.
can't dribble the ball with both feet or, wasn't playing at a certain level. Like, and I saw that, I was like, man, these younger kids, and I see the problem as to why. We don't develop players like they do in the rest of the world is because we don't got enough people that have been there, done that these kids admire, look up to, and will respect if they were in charge of an environment when it consists of developing or helping kids get to the next level. And I was like looking around the country to see who was really doing it that was a former player, and no former players to our caliber were doing it on a day-to-day, week in and week out basis. Like the Beasley had his camps during his career where he had a whole camp and he was doing it, and we used to joke around like, man, you about to go back. It's the off season, man. Let's go hit South Beach. You're gonna go back and do a camp with kids, man. Man, let's go to South Beach and turn
But
up.
you're right though.
And so
Bees was doing his camps, but not day in and day out like you are now.
Bees was doing it in his career, right? And so I used to laugh, but I'm like, man, he was ahead of the game, man.
Straight up.
You know what I'm saying? He had a plan B. When it all goes wrong and the day you come where you can't play no more, what you gonna have to fall back onto? And I say, you know what? I'm gonna get into, developing and mentoring kids and just giving all my personal experiences, the good and the bad into these younger kids, because if we want to be able to develop world-class players, we got to start making sure these environments, are real environments and not just, telling parents what they want to hear, manipulating and lying to parents just so they can pay you a dollar, and it's not about financial gain. It's about really, really educating parents and being real with players and putting these kids in a position where they can win. And going back to what I was saying is the game was so faithful to me, right? And someone put me in a position to be where I am today. We don't put like we as players, like, and Jalil, you do your camps too as well, right? Don't you got your academy going on? You do your camps too as well. And I remember we had our discussions about, camps and stuff. And, when you come into the end of your career where you wanted to get into like helping the younger generation out too as well. Like now we start to see it, but at the time we didn't have enough former players working with the grassroots. If I look around the country, Jalil, you, me, D-Row, Edson Buttle, Scott Seeley in Dallas, he's doing his thing. We just don't have enough. And in the rest of the world, in the rest of the world, the reason why these kids are so much better and they produce world-class players, it's the education that these kids are getting at a younger age. They're learning the tools to be able to survive and solve problems to the answers when they get in certain situations on the field at a young age. And they're being put in these situations, these uncomfortable situations at a young age, and being encouraged to try and don't be afraid to fail, where the emphasis in U.S. soccer at a young age at 6 years old is you got to win.
That's right.
Parent want to be on a winning team, right? We got to take the not winning and you suck emphasis out of grassroots and change that to, winning is getting better.
Eddie, fire, the whole thing, and your journey. And we wanted to make sure part of our show is about giving and showing excellence and respect. And like I said in the top, you were the guy before the guy, and so much of what you did was done at such a young age, and then to have the perseverance and the resiliency to have as long of a career as you had. I just appreciate who you are, what you're about. And, please do find Eddie on IG, what he's doing down there for skill acquisition, skill talent development. The whole thing is just wild. It's next level. And the proof is in the puddings.